For over 30 years, I gave my life to raise a boy who wasn't mine by blood, but he was mine in every way that mattered. His name was Lucas, and to the world, he was my son. But the truth is, he was my second chance at something I lost long ago. I worked days and nights to keep him healthy, to send him to college, to buy him a home. I missed birthdays, skipped meals, cleaned strangers' houses until my hands bled, all so he could have more than I ever did. But the day I lost my job, Lucas looked me in the eyes and told me to get out of the house. He didn't ask why, he didn't show concern, he just said, "You're a burden now. You don't bring anything to this house." That's when I realized something painful, something I had ignored for too long. To him, I was never a mother. I was just a paycheck. He had no idea that the woman he just kicked out wasn't poor. In fact, I had something he could never imagine. A secret fortune. And this time, I wasn't going to save him. I had just returned home early from my job. For the past 12 years, I had been working as a personal assistant and caregiver for a woman named Madame Celeste, a widowed art collector who had no family of her own. She was kind, gentle, treated me like a sister. And when she passed away after a long illness, I thought I had lost everything. But instead, I gained something I never expected. She left me $7.8 million in her will. No one knew, not even Lucas, so when I told him I had stopped working, I expected concern, maybe surprise. Instead, his face turned red. "What do you mean you quit?" he shouted. "That job paid you $7,000 a month. Why would you leave it now? What do you plan to do, sit here and drain our resources?" I stood frozen in the doorway, holding the groceries I had brought. The joy of coming home vanished. My voice trembled. "I thought it'd be a good time to help out with Emma. You said she might try for a baby soon, I could support during the pregnancy." That was when his wife Emma, a sharp-tongued woman with expensive taste, cut in. She folded her arms. "Support with what? Your outdated knowledge from housekeeping? Please, we're hiring professionals." Her mother, Professor Elaine, a retired university lecturer who never liked me, added, "Infant care requires medical precision. Not someone who cleaned houses for decades." I bit my tongue. They weren't just brushing me aside, they were laughing at me. And then came the final blow. "Well then," Emma said coldly, "if you're not working, at least you can pay for the nanny and postpartum nurse. You'll handle the costs, of course." I stood there shaking, and Lucas, my son, nodded in agreement. "You really shouldn't have quit, Mom," he said. "Our bills are only going up. We need your help now more than ever." That was the moment something inside me snapped. I stared at Lucas for a long time. This boy I raised from a frail baby into a grown man with a home, a wife, a future, and yet he looked at me like I was an old wallet that had finally run dry. "I'm 59 years old," I said, holding back tears. "I think I've earned the right to rest." Emma laughed, that bitter, theatrical kind of laugh that says more than any insult. "Rest? You don't even have a pension," she snapped. "You should have planned better." My throat tightened. "I wanted to pay into a plan years ago, but you two told me to help with the mortgage instead, said it was more important." Lucas stepped in again, his voice now raised. "Don't bring that up again, Nicole's under stress. If you want to be helpful, you'll get another job, you're still in good shape. You could work another 15, 20 years. 20 more years. Was I supposed to die on my feet just so he could live comfortably? I felt dizzy. Cold. Back in college, Lucas had met Emma, the daughter of a wealthy academic family. I wanted him to feel secure, so I moved to another city and worked full-time as a live-in assistant just to help them save money. Eventually, I even bought them their house with my name nowhere on the deed. At the time, they cried. Said one day they'd take care of me. "Mom, when we're more stable, you'll rest, you'll finally live the life you deserve." But now I saw what they meant. That deserved life was a one-way contract. I worked, they lived. I spoke slowly. Calmly, "I'm not asking to be taken care of. I'm just saying I'm done being your employee." But Elaine wasn't done with me. "Well," she said, adjusting her glasses, "I do know a wealthy couple looking for a live-in housekeeper. Private room, good pay, seems like a perfect fit." Emma's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's brilliant. Mom, you'd be perfect for them. You've done it before, and you can still help cover our household expenses from afar." I couldn't believe it. They were literally trying to auction me off. "I'm not going back into anyone's house to clean their floors," I said, every syllable like a stone. Elaine shrugged. "Then maybe consider a retirement home with work-study options. Kitchen duties, laundry shifts, better than sitting around, right?" That was when I turned to Lucas. You really think I should go scrub floors in an old folks' home just to earn my meals? He avoided my eyes. Mom, be reasonable. You've always wanted independence. Isn't this the most dignified way to live without being a burden? Without asking, he pulled out his phone and started dialing. There's a spot available. You can move in today. Something shattered inside me. I wasn't even a person to them anymore, just a line item, a cost, a problem. You think you suffered? He said suddenly, glaring. That was your choice. You divorced Dad. That ruined everything. You owe me for the life I never got. There it was, the ugliest truth. The boy I had raised, fought for, cried for, now looked at me like I owed him my entire life. And he didn't even know the truth. Lucas wasn't even my biological son. I still remember the first time I saw Lucas. I was volunteering at the city's child welfare center. He was barely a year old. Tiny, pale, wrapped in a hospital blanket. The director whispered to me, he was abandoned by his birth parents, found in a dumpster. He has a congenital heart defect, not expected to live long. Most people walked past his crib, but something in me couldn't. Maybe it was because I'd lost my own mother when I was young. Or maybe it was just the way his eyes clung to mine, full of fear, confusion, and hope. I went home, sat in silence for hours. Then I made the hardest decision of my life. I told my then husband, I want to adopt him. At first, he agreed. But 2 years later, when the medical bills piled up and Lucas still needed surgery, my husband gave me an ultimatum. Send him back or raise him alone. I didn't hesitate. I packed my bags, walked out the door, and never looked back. From that moment on, Lucas was my son, not by blood, but by every sleepless night, every second job, every silent prayer beside a hospital bed. I worked in restaurants, cleaned houses, took care of elderly people, sometimes 3 jobs at once. And when he finally got better, when he grew strong enough to go to school, I thought, this was worth it. I never told him the truth. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because I wanted him to feel safe. I didn't want him to grow up thinking he'd been unwanted. I wanted him to believe he was chosen, loved, cherished. But now here he was, kicking me out of a house I had bought, screaming that I owed him more. I picked up my suitcase and turned toward the door. You and I said quietly, have nothing to do with each other anymore. Susan, Emma's mother, grabbed my arm. You can't just walk away, he's your son. I pulled free. No, he's your burden now. They had no idea that by this point, the $7.8 million inheritance from Madame Celeste had already been legally transferred to me. I hadn't touched a cent of it, but that was about to change. Because if they thought throwing me out meant I would disappear quietly, they were about to be very wrong. The next morning, I checked into the city's most exclusive 5-star hotel. That evening, I called Madame Celeste's attorney. I'm ready, I said. Let's move forward. I want to reclaim everything I gave away. For the first time in decades, I wasn't living paycheck to paycheck. I had choices. Within a week, I started house hunting, not just any house, but something grand. A quiet villa, far from the noise and judgment of people like Emma and Susan. But fate has a strange sense of humor. The day I visited the city's most prestigious real estate agency, guess who greeted me at the showroom? Chloe, Susan's niece, Emma's cousin. She didn't recognize me at first. I wore a simple dress, no makeup, no jewelry. But as soon as she read my name on the appointment list, her lips curled. You, touring these villas? She laughed. Don't tell me you're here for the free coffee. I didn't respond. I simply said, show me the most private property you have. She rolled her eyes. Ma'am, these homes start at $2 million. I'm aware. She stepped aside, clearly amused. Sure, follow me. Let's play house. The moment we stepped into the model home, I knew this was it. The high ceilings, the garden bathed in golden light, the silence, it felt like peace. I'll take it, I said calmly. Chloe laughed until I pulled out a bank slip showing the full balance. $7,865,000.00. The silence in the showroom was immediate. Her face turned the color of chalk. Where did you get that kind of money? That's not your concern, I said. Now step aside, I'll work with someone else. Chloe, unable to control herself, began mumbling to others in the showroom. She used to be a maid. She must have stolen this money. People like her don't belong here. But I wasn't done. I turned to the sales manager. I'll buy this house and another one next door, but I want her fired. That same afternoon, I signed the contracts in full cash. and requested the youngest assistant in the office, a girl named Lena, to be credited as the sales closer. Tears welled in Lena's eyes. You're my first client, my first commission. Then let's make it memorable, I smiled. But Chloe didn't stop. She posted about me online, spread rumors that I was sleeping with wealthy men, claimed I had faked documents, so I sued her. I filed for public defamation and harassment. And in court, with her Aunt Susan watching from the back row, Chloe was found guilty. As I left the courtroom, Chloe whispered through gritted teeth, "You'll regret this, you're nothing." I turned slowly. No, I said, I was nothing until now. I moved into my new home a week later. It wasn't just a house, it was a declaration. The garden bloomed with lavender and roses. The morning sun warmed my reading chair by the window. I painted again, cooked slowly, breathed deeply. I belonged to no one but myself. But Lucas, he didn't disappear. First came the flowers, enormous, expensive bouquets left at the gate. Then came texts, "Mom, please forgive me, I was stressed, I didn't mean it. Come home, we'll make things right." I didn't respond. Instead, I asked the security guard to send him a photo of the flowers thrown in the trash. Next, he started waiting by the gate. Every morning, every evening, sometimes crying, sometimes shouting, "Mom, don't ignore me. You're still my mother." He even fell to his knees once, begging in front of other residents. I still didn't speak to him. Eventually, he stopped showing up. But I should have known his silence wasn't peace, it was plotting. A few weeks later, I received a call. It was Richard, my ex-husband, the man who once gave me an ultimatum, him or Lucas. "I just thought you should know," he said carefully. Lucas came to see me. He demanded a paternity test, said he knew I wasn't his real father. I closed my eyes. The truth I had hidden for 30 years was now uncovered. "He's furious, Rose," Richard continued. I didn't tell him the full story. "But I thought you should be ready." And just like that, Lucas declared war, not through lawyers, not in person, but online. He started a live stream titled, "The Mother Who Abandoned Me." In it, he wept into the camera, claiming I had left him, that I'd chosen money over family. He painted himself as a poor, betrayed son, said I lived in luxury while he struggled to eat. The internet went wild. Tens of thousands shared his stream. He sold t-shirts. People sent donations, messages of support, even hatred toward me. "You're heartless," some wrote. "May you die alone." But I wasn't angry, I was ready. I launched my own channel. In my first live stream, I didn't cry. I didn't beg, I simply said, "You've heard his version, now hear mine." I showed photos, receipts, audio clips. I explained how I had adopted Lucas from an orphanage, paid every bill, worked every job. I revealed the adoption certificate, the inheritance I had once intended to leave him, and how he threw me out the day I stopped earning. The comments exploded. She gave him everything. He's not a victim, he's a user. I've never cried so much watching a live stream. By the end of that week, Lucas's channel was suspended. He was sued for defamation, and I was finally completely free. I sold the villas and moved to a quiet town by the lake. Sunlight kissed my windows, birds sang in the trees. I painted, I baked, I smiled. No one called me useless. No one demanded anything from me. For the first time in my life, I was whole. Sometimes people ask, "Do you regret adopting him?" I think about that a lot, but the truth is no, I don't regret loving. I regret not protecting myself sooner, because kindness,